Snow was falling softly outside when Daniel arrived. I watched through the frosted kitchen window as he stepped out of his car, a bottle of wine in one hand and that easy smile already forming on his face. He was 28, 10 years younger than me, and had been my husband Marcus's friend from work for nearly 2 years. Tonight was Christmas Eve, and Marcus had insisted Daniel join us since he had nowhere else to go for the holidays. I opened the door before he could knock, the cold air rushing in with the scent of pine and winter. "Daniel, come in. You'll freeze out there," I said, stepping aside. He smiled at me, that warm, genuine smile that always made him seem younger than he was. "Thank you, Sarah. I brought wine. I wasn't sure what you were cooking, so I got both red and white." His thoughtfulness touched me. Marcus rarely thought about such details anymore. The house glowed with Christmas lights. I had spent the entire day decorating, stringing garland along the banister, hanging stockings by the fireplace, and setting up the tree in the corner of the living room. Marcus had been at the office until 6, claiming year-end reports couldn't wait. When he finally came home, he had barely noticed the effort I'd put into making everything perfect. But Daniel noticed. "This place looks incredible," he said, his eyes taking in every detail. "You must have worked all day." I felt my cheeks warm. I wanted it to feel special. Marcus came down the stairs then, loosening his tie. "Daniel, good to see you, man. Come on in. Make yourself at home." They shook hands with that casual, masculine ease, and Marcus grabbed 2 beers from the fridge without asking if Daniel wanted one. I returned to the kitchen, checking on the roast and stirring the gravy. Through the doorway, I could hear them talking about office politics, deadlines, and promotions. Marcus's voice dominated the conversation, the way it always did. Dinner was ready by 7. We sat around the table I had carefully set with our good china, candles flickering between us. The roast was perfect, the vegetables tender, the rolls golden. Daniel complimented everything, while Marcus ate quickly, already pouring his 3rd beer. "This is the best meal I've had in months," Daniel said, looking directly at me. "You're an amazing cook, Sarah." Something in his tone made me hold his gaze a moment longer than necessary. There was sincerity there, appreciation that I hadn't felt from Marcus in years. As the evening wore on, Marcus grew louder, his laughter more boisterous. He told stories Daniel had probably heard a dozen times, stories where Marcus was always the hero, always the smartest person in the room. I cleared the plates quietly, moving around them like a ghost in my own home. Daniel offered to help, but Marcus waved him off. "Nah, Sarah's got it. She likes doing this stuff." He didn't even look at me when he said it. By 10 o'clock, Marcus was slumped in his chair, his eyes heavy. "I think I overdid it," he mumbled, standing unsteadily. "I'm going to bed. Daniel, stay as long as you want. Sarah will keep you company." And just like that, he disappeared upstairs, leaving Daniel and me alone in the warm glow of the Christmas tree. The fire crackled softly in the hearth. Daniel looked uncomfortable for a moment, then met my eyes. "I should probably go," he said quietly. But something in his voice told me he didn't really want to. I poured myself a glass of the wine he had brought, surprising myself. "Stay a little longer," I heard myself say. "It's Christmas Eve. No one should be alone on Christmas Eve." He hesitated, then nodded, accepting a glass. We moved to the living room, sitting on opposite ends of the couch. The silence between us wasn't awkward. It was loaded with something else, something neither of us wanted to name. Outside, the snow continued to fall, covering the world in white. Inside, the air felt thick, charged. "Thank you for having me tonight," Daniel said softly. "I know I'm intruding on your family time." I shook my head. "You're not intruding, honestly. It was nice having someone here who actually noticed everything." The words slipped out before I could stop them, revealing more than I intended. Daniel's expression shifted, something like understanding passing across his face. He didn't respond immediately, just looked at me with those thoughtful eyes. And in that moment, I realized the evening had just begun. The real conversation, the one that would change everything, was still ahead. And I wasn't sure I was ready for where it would lead. We sat in silence for several minutes, the only sound the crackling fire and the soft hum of Christmas music playing from the speaker in the corner. I sipped my wine, feeling its warmth spread through me, loosening the tension I'd been carrying for months, maybe years. Daniel shifted on the couch, turning slightly toward me. Can I ask you something, Sarah? His voice was careful, measured. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. Are you happy? The question hung in the air between us, simple yet devastating. No one had asked me that in so long. Marcus certainly never had. He assumed my happiness, took it for granted like he took everything else. I looked down at my wine glass, watching the liquid catch the firelight. That's a complicated question, I said finally, my voice barely above a whisper. Daniel leaned forward slightly. It shouldn't be. His words hit me like a physical thing. He was right. Happiness shouldn't be complicated. It shouldn't require explanation or justification. Yet here I was, struggling to answer a question that should have been simple. I don't remember the last time Marcus asked me how I was, I admitted, surprised by my own honesty. Not really asked, not in a way that suggested he actually wanted to hear the answer. Daniel's jaw tightened. I've noticed things, he said carefully. The way he talks to you sometimes, or doesn't talk to you. The way he takes credit for things you've done. I felt tears prick at my eyes. Having someone else see it, validate what I'd been feeling, was overwhelming. I'm sorry, I said, wiping quickly at my face. This isn't appropriate. You're his friend. Daniel set his wineglass down and looked at me directly. I'm his colleague, Sarah. I work with him. But friendship, real friendship, requires respect, and the way he treats you. He trailed off, shaking his head. I don't respect that. The admission shocked me. I had assumed Daniel admired Marcus, looked up to him the way younger colleagues often did. Why do you come here then? I asked. Why accept the invitation if you don't respect him? Daniel's eyes met mine, and I saw something there that made my breath catch. At first, I came because I was new and he was my boss's favorite, but lately... He paused, seeming to wrestle with his words. Lately, I've come because of you. The room suddenly felt too small, too warm. My heart hammered in my chest. Daniel. He held up a hand. I know this is wrong to say. You're married. He's my colleague. But sitting here, watching him ignore you all night, watching him take you for granted. Sarah, you deserve so much more than this. His voice cracked slightly on the last words, revealing emotion he'd been holding back. I should have stopped him. I should have stood up, thanked him for coming, and asked him to leave. Instead, I stayed frozen, unable to look away from his face. You don't know our marriage, I said weakly. You don't know what it's like behind closed doors. Daniel nodded slowly. You're right, I don't. But I know what I see. I see a woman who puts her whole heart into everything, who makes a home beautiful, who cooks incredible meals, who tries so hard to make everyone comfortable. And I see a man who doesn't even notice. Tears spilled down my cheeks now, unstoppable. Everything he was saying was true, and hearing it spoken aloud by someone else made it impossible to deny anymore. I thought it would get better, I whispered. When we first got married, he was different, attentive, kind. But year by year, I've watched him drift further away. Now I feel like I'm living with a stranger who occasionally remembers I exist. Daniel moved closer, not touching me, but close enough that I could feel his warmth. You're not invisible, Sarah. Not to me. The weight of those words settled over us. This was dangerous territory, a line we were approaching that couldn't be uncrossed. This can't happen, I said, though I wasn't sure what I was referring to. This conversation, these feelings, Daniel? He nodded, his eyes never leaving mine. I know. But I needed you to know that you're seen, that you matter, that someone notices everything you do, everything you are. We sat there inches apart, the Christmas lights twinkling above us. Upstairs, I could hear Marcus snoring, oblivious to the fact that his marriage was cracking apart in the room below him. I should go, Daniel said finally, though he didn't move. It's late. I nodded, but my hand reached out, seemingly of its own accord, and touched his arm. Thank you, I said softly, for seeing me. His hand covered mine, warm and solid. How could I not? Neither of us moved. His hand remained over mine, and I could feel my pulse racing beneath his touch. The grandfather clock in the hallway chimed 11, the sound echoing through the quiet house. Daniel's thumb traced a small circle on the back of my hand, such a gentle gesture, yet it sent electricity through my entire body. I knew I should pull away. Every rational part of my brain screamed at me to stand up, to thank him for coming, to send him home, but I couldn't move. "Sarah," he whispered, my name sounding different in his voice than it ever had in Marcus's. There was reverence in it, softness. He said it like it mattered. I looked up at him, and the expression on his face took my breath away. He wasn't looking at me with pity or sympathy. He was looking at me with desire, with longing, with something that felt dangerously close to love. "This is wrong," I said, but the words had no conviction behind them. They were words I knew I should say, not words I believed. Daniel shifted closer, his free hand coming up to brush a strand of hair from my face. His fingers lingered on my cheek, and I found myself leaning into his touch like a flower turning toward the sun. "Tell me to leave," he said quietly. "Tell me to walk out that door and never bring this up again." "I will, Sarah. I'll respect whatever you want." But I couldn't say the words. Instead, I heard myself whisper, "I don't want you to leave." His eyes searched mine, looking for certainty, for permission. Then slowly, giving me every opportunity to pull away, he leaned toward me. The first brush of his lips against mine was feather light, questioning. I gasped softly, and he pulled back immediately. "I'm sorry, I didn't let him finish." I closed the distance between us, pressing my lips to his with a hunger that surprised us both. His arms came around me, pulling me closer, and I melted into him in a way I hadn't melted into anyone in years. The kiss deepened, and I felt tears streaming down my face even as my hands tangled in his hair. He tasted like wine and winter and everything I had been missing. His hands were gentle but urgent, tracing the curve of my spine, threading through my hair. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he pressed his forehead against mine. "God, Sarah," he breathed. "I've wanted to do that for so long." The confession should have shocked me, but instead it felt like relief. "How long?" I asked, my voice shaking. He pulled back slightly, looking into my eyes. "Since the first time I came to this house. You were wearing a blue dress, and you laughed at something, and I thought you were the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. Then Marcus interrupted you mid-sentence to tell some story about himself, and you just dimmed, like someone had turned down a light. I've watched it happen over and over, and every time it's killed me a little." I covered my mouth with my hand, overwhelmed. He had seen all of it, every small hurt, every quiet disappointment. "I can't do this to him," I said, even as my body betrayed me, leaning into Daniel's warmth. "He's your colleague. He's my husband." Daniel's hand cupped my face gently. "I know, and I'm not asking you to do anything. I just needed you to know that you're not crazy. What you feel, what you're missing, it's real. You deserve to be cherished, Sarah. You deserve someone who sees you." Upstairs, a floorboard creaked. We both froze, pulling apart quickly. My heart hammered as I listened for Marcus's footsteps on the stairs, but there was only silence. He had probably just rolled over in bed. Still, the sound had shattered the moment, bringing reality crashing back. Daniel stood up, running his hands through his hair. "I should go," he said, his voice rough. I shouldn't have." I stood too, wrapping my arms around myself. "No, we both." Neither of us could finish a sentence. He walked toward the door, and I followed, my mind spinning. At the threshold, he turned back to me. The cold air from outside rushed in, clearing my head slightly. "Sarah," he said, his hand on the door frame, "what I said tonight, what happened, I meant every word. But I also know this is your life, your marriage. I won't push. I won't make things harder for you." He paused, his eyes searching mine one more time. "But if you ever need someone to talk to, someone who sees you, I'm here." I nodded, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. He stepped out into the snow, and I watched him walk to his car. Before he got in, he turned back one last time. Our eyes met across the snowy yard, and in that moment, everything unsaid passed between us. Then he was gone, his taillights disappearing into the white night. I closed the door and leaned against it, my hand touching my lips where he had kissed me. Upstairs, my husband slept, unaware, and I stood in the wreckage of everything I thought I knew. Daniel's words echoing in my mind, "You deserve to be cherished." I didn't sleep that night. I lay beside Marcus in our bed, staring at the ceiling while he snored peacefully beside me. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Daniel's face, felt his lips on mine, heard his words, "You're not invisible, not to me." My body still hummed with the memory of his touch, while my mind wrestled with the guilt of what I'd allowed to happen, what I'd wanted to happen, what part of me desperately wanted to happen again. Christmas morning arrived with bright sunshine reflecting off fresh snow. Marcus woke cheerful, oblivious. "Merry Christmas, babe," he said, kissing my forehead absently before heading to the shower. I lay there listening to the water run, wondering how he could be so completely unaware that his wife had kissed another man just hours earlier. But that was Marcus. He existed in his own world, and I was simply part of the scenery. We opened presents in the living room, sitting in the same spots where Daniel and I had sat the night before. I had bought Marcus a new watch, expensive, exactly the style he'd mentioned wanting. He smiled, thanked me, said it was great. Then he handed me my gift, a gift card to a spa. Not a specific spa I'd mentioned, not a thoughtful package he'd arranged. A generic card he'd probably bought at the grocery store the day before. "Thought you could use some pampering," he said, already distracted by his phone. I thanked him, feeling hollow. My own phone buzzed. My heart leapt, hoping irrationally that it was Daniel. But it was just my sister, wishing me Merry Christmas. I responded mechanically, my mind elsewhere. What was Daniel doing right now? Was he thinking about last night? Did he regret it? Did I? That last question haunted me. I knew I should regret it. I was a married woman. I had violated my vows, even if it was only a kiss. But when I searched my heart for regret, all I found was a strange, guilty relief. Relief that someone had finally seen me, finally wanted me. The day dragged on. We had dinner with Marcus's parents, where his mother complained about everything I'd cooked, and his father talked politics loudly over everyone else. Marcus joined in, the two of them dominating the conversation, while his mother made passive-aggressive comments about my dress, my hair, my childlessness. I sat through it all with a frozen smile, the same smile I'd worn for 10 years of these gatherings. But this time, something was different. This time, I kept thinking, Daniel wouldn't let his family treat me this way. Daniel would defend me. The comparison was dangerous, I knew. It was easy to idealize someone you barely knew, someone you'd only kissed once. Daniel and I had shared one conversation, one moment of weakness. That didn't mean he was perfect. That didn't mean he was the answer to my problems. But the thought persisted anyway, a small flame of possibility I couldn't quite extinguish. What if there was more to life than this? What if I deserved better? 3 days passed. Marcus returned to work, and the house fell into its usual quiet emptiness. I cleaned obsessively, trying to scrub away the guilt and confusion. I changed the sheets on our bed, even though we'd just changed them. I rearranged the living room furniture, unable to sit on the couch without remembering Daniel's hand covering mine. I avoided looking at my phone, terrified of what I might do if he contacted me, terrified of what it would mean if he didn't. On the 4th day, New Year's Eve, my phone buzzed. My hands shook as I picked it up. It was Daniel. "I know I said I wouldn't push, but I can't stop thinking about you. I need to know you're okay. Please, just tell me you're okay." I stared at the message for 10 minutes, my thumb hovering over the keyboard. I could ignore it. I could delete it. I could tell him we couldn't communicate anymore. Instead, I typed, "I'm not okay. I haven't been okay for a long time." His response came immediately. "Can we talk? Just talk, please." Every instinct told me to say no. Meeting him again would be crossing another line, making this real instead of a one-time mistake. But I was so tired of pretending, so tired of being invisible. When? I typed. Tomorrow, New Year's Day. There's a coffee shop on Brennan Street, 2 p.m. I knew the place. It was across town, nowhere Marcus would ever go. Okay, I replied. Then, before I could stop myself, I've been thinking about you too. Marcus came home that night with champagne and takeout, his idea of a romantic New Year's Eve. We ate Chinese food in front of the TV and watched the ball drop. At midnight, he kissed me, tasting of beer and MSG. I kissed him back, wondering if he could taste my betrayal, but he noticed nothing, turning back to the TV with a satisfied smile. Happy New Year, babe. This year's going to be big for me at work. I can feel it. Not us, him. It was always him. I lay awake again that night, watching the clock tick toward morning, toward 2 p.m., toward Daniel. I knew I was making a choice, that every step forward now was deliberate. I could still stop this. I could cancel, block his number, throw myself into fixing my marriage. But the question that kept me awake wasn't whether I could stop. It was whether I wanted to. And as the first light of the new year crept through the curtains, I realized I already knew the answer. I didn't want to stop. I wanted to be seen. I wanted to be cherished. I wanted to find out if what I'd felt with Daniel was real, even if it destroyed everything. I arrived at the coffee shop 15 minutes early, my hands trembling as I ordered tea I wouldn't drink. I chose a table in the back corner, away from the windows, though the place was nearly empty on New Year's Day. Every time the door chimed, my heart leapt. When Daniel finally walked in, our eyes met immediately, and I felt that same electric charge from Christmas Eve. He looked tired, shadows under his eyes suggesting he'd slept as poorly as I had. He ordered coffee and sat down across from me, neither of us speaking for a long moment. "Thank you for coming," he said finally, his voice low. "I wasn't sure you would." I wrapped my hands around my teacup, needing something to hold on to. "I wasn't sure either. I must have changed my mind a dozen times this morning." He nodded, understanding. "Sarah, I need to be honest with you about something, about why I really came over on Christmas Eve." My heart hammered. Marcus didn't invite me. I mean, he did, but I had already declined. I told him I had family plans. I stared at him, confused. Then why? Daniel's hands clenched on the table. Because 2 days before Christmas, I ran into him at a bar after work. He was with some colleagues, and they were all pretty drunk. They were talking about their wives, making jokes. His jaw tightened. "The things he said about you, Sarah. The way he laughed about how easy you are to please, how you never complain no matter what he does, how convenient it is to have a wife who just handles everything." Tears burned my eyes, but I blinked them back. It shouldn't hurt. I already knew Marcus took me for granted, but hearing it confirmed, knowing he mocked me to his colleagues, was a different kind of pain. "One of the guys asked why he even got married if he felt that way," Daniel continued, and Marcus said, "Someone has to manage the house and look good at company events." They all laughed. I didn't. He looked down at his coffee. "I went home that night furious, and I realized I couldn't just stand by anymore." "So you came over to, what, save me?" I couldn't keep the edge from my voice. Daniel's eyes met mine, earnest and pained. "No, I came over because I needed to see for myself if you knew, if you were happy with the arrangement, if maybe I was overreacting or misunderstanding." He reached across the table, stopping just short of touching my hand. "But the moment I walked in and saw you, the way your whole face lit up because someone appreciated your cooking, your effort. Sarah, you're drowning and you don't even realize it." I pulled my hands back, anger flaring. "You don't get to tell me what I realize. You don't get to decide that my marriage is broken based on one drunk conversation and one dinner." Even as I said it, I knew I was being defensive. Everything he was saying was true, and I hated him for forcing me to face it. "You're right," Daniel said quietly. "I don't. And maybe I'm way out of line here. Maybe I've completely misread everything." He stood up and panic shot through me. "Wait," I said. He paused, looking down at me. "Tell me something honestly," I continued, my voice shaking. "That night, the kiss, was that pity? Were you trying to prove some point?" Daniel sat back down slowly, leaning forward. That kiss was the most honest thing I've done in years. I didn't kiss you because I felt sorry for you. I kissed you because I've been falling for you since the moment we met, and sitting there with you, seeing you finally be real with someone. I couldn't not kiss you. The coffee shop suddenly felt too small, too intimate. "This is crazy," I whispered. "We barely know each other. You could be just as bad as Marcus, worse even." Daniel nodded. "You're absolutely right. You don't know me. Not really. Maybe I'm a terrible person. Maybe I'm selfish for even sitting here with you. But Sarah, whether or not anything ever happens between us, you need to know something. What you have with Marcus isn't normal. It isn't healthy. You deserve someone who doesn't just tolerate you. You deserve someone who celebrates you." I felt something crack open inside me, all the years of small disappointments and quiet dismissals flooding out. "I don't know how to leave," I admitted, the words torn from somewhere deep. "We've been married 10 years. Everyone thinks we're happy. His family, our friends, everyone. If I leave, I'm the bad guy. I'm the one who gave up, who couldn't make it work." Daniel's expression softened. "Or you're the one who was brave enough to choose herself." We sat in silence, the weight of everything unsaid pressing down on us. Finally, Daniel spoke again. "I'm not asking you to leave him for me. I'm not asking you to leave him at all. That's your choice, and it has to be about you, not about me. But if you do decide you deserve better, if you do decide to walk away, I want you to know you won't be alone. Someone will be waiting who thinks you're extraordinary." The promise hung between us, terrifying and thrilling. I looked at this man who had appeared in my life like an answer to prayers I hadn't known I was praying. "I need time," I said finally. "I need to think about everything without you in front of me, making me feel things I'm not ready to feel." He nodded, standing again. "Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere." He hesitated at the door, turning back one last time. "Happy New Year, Sarah. I hope this year you find whatever it is you're looking for." As I watched him leave, I realized he was wrong about one thing. I already knew what I was looking for. I was looking for myself. The person I'd been before I'd learned to make myself smaller, quieter, less. The woman who deserved to be seen, cherished, celebrated. Whether I found her alone, with Daniel, or somehow with Marcus didn't matter yet. What mattered was that I was finally looking. And Daniel's words from Christmas Eve, the ones that still haunted me every quiet moment, had given me permission to start. "You're not invisible, not to me." For the first time in years, I felt real, and there was no going back from that.